Let's talk about the time the Justice League met the Superman of the future. We see Clark Kent working at the Daily Planet, procrastinating a little and staring at a single period on his computer screen. It's like the first dimension, it's a singular point, constant and unmoving. Much like Clark himself, who is a man of constants, his home, his job, his family, his other life. This morning, he's feeling a little restless as he gets a telepathic call from Batman telling him that he's needed now. He distracts Perry long enough to get his article typed up in the matter of a second, and excuses himself as he goes to head out and meet the Justice League. The reason the Justice League have called Superman is because they're ready to trap his most powerful enemy, the fifth-dimensional imp himself, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mixie has incredible power and is unbelievably dangerous. At his core, he's not truly evil, and Superman knows that, and they need his help. But as Big Blue is trying to explain what they're up against, Mixie stops him and tells him that he already knows. Legion of Doom are in the process of trying to awaken and control the mother of the multiverse, Perpetua. Mxyzptlk is giving the Justice League a quick lesson on dimensions. He tells them, the first dimension is a singular point, the second one being a line. It's nothing, it's boring. The third is obviously the material stuff, where they all exist, and the fourth one is time. Fifth one being, of course, imagination and Mxyzptlk's home. He tells them that it's everywhere, all the time. You just can't see it and you can't feel it, and if you could, you would know it's dying. The fifth dimension isn't where their answer lies. No, they need to go to the sixth. Fifth dimensional imp then explains to them that the sixth dimension is the land of unimagination. It's literally impossible to conceive what it could be. All of them may exist in 4 dimensions within the entire multiverse. Imagination is what holds it all together, but the sixth dimension is where it was all created. Essentially, the multiverse's control room, and he only knows of 4 beings that could stand to live there. The Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, the World Forger, and Perpetua. They're going to stop Perpetua's return and her resetting the multiverse back to what she wanted it to be. They're going to have to do it there. Bad news in all of this is there's only one member of the Justice League who could possibly stand going to the 6th dimension, and of course, it's Superman. Superman dejectedly puts his hands on his knees and tells the imp to go ahead and open the portal. Baz tries to talk some sense into his best friend and tell him that this is the 6th dimension, something they have no idea about. There's literally no way he can responsibly tell him to go in there. After realizing that they're just out of time and out of options, Batman finally agrees to let the big blue Boy Scout go. Bruce admits and tells Clark that you're the only person more stubborn than me. With the rest of the Justice League's blessing, Mxyzptlk uses all of the rest of his 5th dimensional power to open up a portal to the 6th dimension. Man of Tomorrow stops and takes one last look at all of his friends and tells them that he promises it's going to be okay as he walks through the portal and the door closes behind him. It opens back up a mere seconds later with Superman returning and apologizing that it's been so long. The greatest detective in the world, of course, asks the Martian Manhunter to check and see if that's really Superman, to which he confirms that by all his readings, it is. He brings them good news, saying while it was mere seconds for them, he has spent the last decade in the 6th dimension. He searched every thread, every possibility, and he has found one singular road that will lead them to saving the universe. He tells them that he's changed the portal's energy signatures to match all of theirs so that they can safely walk through. Seconds ago, they were in one place, and now they're in an entirely different one where they see future versions of themselves, and Superman tells them the good news, that they've already won, and he's going to take them inside and show them exactly how that happened. But that Superman isn't the one the Justice League knows and loves. The real one is lost on a dark planet on a far-off point, stumbling around trying to get his bearings and figuring out where the hell he is. He's wondering what he's stepping on until finally he sees it. This entire galaxy that he is in was a trap made specifically for him. And obviously has been tested over and over again. Now there's no sunlight, there's no way for him to escape. And while the symbol of hope is telling himself that it can't end this way, it just can't, the words that he spoke to Perry White back in the office that morning are ringing in his head. A singular point can mark the finish of the story, and this might be Superman's The End. The Justice League through the portal to the 6th dimension into the future where he introduces them to their new House of Justice. Martian Manhunter realizes that there's no defenses here, and he tells them that there's no need for them. He shows them their new symbol and how it's a tribute to how justice won the day. More than that, it's a banner. It's the shape of the very multiverse they fought so hard to save and preserve. While this all looks great, Bruce and Diana tell Clark that they don't have much time and they need to know what this plan is going forward, and they need to know it now. While the future Justice League, of course, is assuring that that will happen, John wants to know how they avoid all this, how they avert disaster with the multiverse heading towards endless chaos. And the Superman of the future tells them that it's just not possible, that if anything, they need to speed it up. He explains that in the sixth dimension, when a multiverse is created, it's created with the intention of it eventually being judged. Perpetua, the mother of their particular multiverse, was a bad seed, and she wanted to create one that would avoid judgment and be something wicked that would live for forever. Her sons, the only other sixth-dimensional beings that we know of, the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger, alerted the other Super Celestials of Perpetua's doings. While she had been imprisoned behind the Source Wall, when the Justice League broke it, she's now been freed, and the Legion of Doom are trying to harness her. Superman tells them the only solution is to take control of the multiverse, to wrestle it away from her, and help it achieve a higher form. When their multiverse's Judgment Day finally comes, it will be deemed worthy. After Superman's big speech, Batman admits that he was skeptical at first, but he's ready to listen now, and Superman assures him that they have time. Tomorrow, they can talk plans, but today, they need to go experience the perfect world that they've created. Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl go to Black Hawk Island and see that it is a spaceport for all planets. They see their future of how the two of them fall in love and have their beautiful son Shane. To John's biggest surprise of all, he sees a spaceship heading off to a completely restored and repopulated Mars. John and Barry are then shown by their future selves their destiny and how, now that the Great War is over, the two of them are responsible for restoring the multiverse. Greatest minds in existence help them in their journey, and John has the best architectural gig that there ever was. He's not designing buildings or cities, but whole worlds. Once he's done that, Flash situates them in time and space, where they have complete control of the time stream, and it's no longer perilous. Diana has shown that all of her dreams have came true, that the veil is gone, that Themyscira is now visible to everybody, and an island that was once dedicated to protecting great truths is now dedicated to sharing them. And finally, Batman gets to see what's become of Gotham. When Dick Grayson pulls his mask off and tells Bruce that he wants to thank him because nobody gives more in this whole multiversal war than he does. He gives up everything. He's the only one that has to sacrifice his life, but thanks to Bruce, no child will ever have to endure what he did again. While all of this may seem perfect, Bruce has one question. Where are all the villains? Roger and John observe this world and the beauty of this place and their possibility of their future together. But their future son Shane shows up and tells the two of them that this place isn't what it looks like, that the people aren't what they seem. Using his telepathic powers, he shows them the hideous truth. Finally, we see the real Superman, not the imposter stringing the Justice League alone, trying to escape his prison. Stranded on a dark planet in a galaxy with no sunlight, he keeps jumping but failing. Even if he were to make it to space, there's no guarantee that he could even find sunlight before his powers would completely drain. But nevertheless, he doesn't quit. He doesn't quit trying, but every time he jumps, he keeps falling shorter. Finally, a voice tells Superman that his entire life has always been on one singular line. From the rocket to now, it was a speeding bullet. It was a locomotive. It was one giant leap, always leading to this. Superman is now face to face with his captor, who tells Clark that he's ready to talk. Cole finds himself in this depowered state. We still see him swinging away as hard as he can, blow after thunderous blow, against this imposter of himself. Future Superman tells Clark that there's no point in fighting now that he's told him the truth, but that doesn't stop Superman from taking one last huge swing. Which gets blocked with nothing but a finger, and he gets grabbed by the wrist and slammed so hard into the planet, chunks of it go flying off into space. Future Superman says he came here out of respect for Clark, but if he fights one moment longer, he'll kill him where he lies. Superman, refusing to quit having hope, refusing to lie down, tells him that his friends will figure it out, that he's not going to fool the Justice League for much longer, and the older imposter says that he's not trying to fool them, he's trying to save them from the one person who damns the multiverse in every reality, you. Tells them he's made this pocket universe specifically as a prison for Superman. He's provided a cosmic garden with food so he can exist and live here if he chooses. That eensy-teensy flicker of light way off in the distance is the realm where his friends now reside, but it's nowhere near enough to power Superman up. He does manage to escape this planet. If he leaps off into space, he will simply die and float back down here like every other version of him has. Superman says he doesn't care if it takes 100 years, and the other version of himself cuts him off and says, I will reach that universe and stop you. I've heard it all before, and now that I have your answer, goodbye, Superman. You can see the future Dick Grayson showing Bruce this beautiful oasis that is now Gotham, and the Pennyworth home, which used to be Arkham. Looking around at all they've built, Bruce tells Dick, his first son, his first Robin, that he finally has a grasp on the feeling that he's only felt flickering inside of him before. Peace. Dick tells him that, of course, for this to happen, hard choices are going to have to be made, and while Bruce, of course, is ready to give whatever he has to for this, the Martian Manhunter contacts him telepathically. He brings all of the Justice League members together and warns them that this place isn't what they think it is. This future, it's a path that none of them would ever take. while the son of the future Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl try to warn them by showing them, Superman of Tomorrow breaches Jean's psychic defenses and tells them that he'll explain it all himself. The Martian Manhunter stands up and tells them that he's no Superman, but this Superman promises that he's the only one that can save them. Bruce demands to know where Clark is, and while he says he's fine, Diana calls him a liar because he's lied about everything, who he is, what this place is, and probably about Clark as well. He promises that this place, that what they're seeing right now, is as true as anything as they've ever felt. Finally, he reveals his true identity, his true form, the first son of Perpetua, the brother of the Monitor and Anti-Monitor, the World Forger. And this multiverse that they have experienced is his greatest creation. It's his masterpiece. He explains for this multiverse to exist, to come to fruition, it must replace the one that they are from. In order to win this war against Lex Luthor, the Legion of Doom, and Perpetua, they have to strike first. He tells them they have to incapacitate, they have to take prisoner everyone throughout the entire multiverse who would ever take up arms against them. Green Lantern says there's no way they would ever take prisoners of war before the war ever began. Martian Manhunter points out that he wants them to imprison trillions, over half the multiverse. This place isn't some kind of future dream, it's an absolute nightmare. Ask what would become of their old multiverse if this one replaces it. He explains that everyone who has a place in this current harmonious multiverse that he's created will still exist, basically their essences will fuse with the old multiverse. But those they imprison, those who refuse to be a part of this justice formation, will cease to exist. Diana says that Superman would not stand for this. A world where you can only save the good is not justice at all. The World Forger tells them fine. Without his help, he sends them away, telling them that they'll regret this. They find themselves in the prisons on Apokolips, where everyone in the multiverse who refused to comply has been doomed. The Warden shows up and assures them that Superman is gone forever. While the League wants to know who the hell this is, the Warden removes her helmet to show that she's Lois Lane and she's the one that runs this place. See Clark thinking back to better and simpler times. He's trying to teach John how to light a fire with sticks and not using his heat vision and cheating. It's a tradition for them in Smallville to light these lanterns this old-fashioned way to remember all of the people that they miss. He explains to John that traditions are important and they're the things that link us through time. And he thinks about that day fondly and how it was focused on a singular light, just like he is right now. That flicker of light way off in the distance that he's staring at is the only way out of this pocket universe created to trap him. Spending so much time here, his powers have already faded so badly, and so many other versions of him from different multiverses have died trying to escape this place. Tells himself he will reach that damned light from above. He will get up there and he will win. That is tradition. He is tradition, as he tells himself with all of his strength, up, up, and away. In a single bound, he is off, almost shattering the planet behind him as he leaps off into space. Meanwhile, the Justice League are in a prison of their own. The World Forger had placed power inhibitor collars on them, and they really stood no chance against this apocalyptic technology. They're being locked away in their cell, they have to know how in the hell Lois Lane, of all people, is the one running this prison. Lois explains that she wasn't from here, that she's a survivor from one of the World Forger's earliest attempts at a perfect multiverse. She's watched him create countless universes where they've tried to save everyone, and in every single attempt, they fail. Clark never bends, he never sees the truth. They lose because of him every single time. That's why he has to be in prison. Because of Clark, she had to watch countless versions of her own son die, and she just can't do that anymore. She may be an idealist, but she's the daughter of a general, and in order to win this war, this is the only way. As she leaves, Barry assures her that they will escape. After all, they have a Batman, and that's when he realizes that Batman's not with them. We see him being the only member of the Justice League who wanted to hear the World Forger out. He wants to know if he chooses this path, if he picks this way forward, what exactly does he have to do? World Forger explains that it won't take too much, that right now back on his Earth, thanks to the Legion of Doom, Batmite and Mixie Spitlick are fighting, and literally unimagining all of reality. It's already fading away. The World Forger is going to take this opportunity to drop his perfect multiverse onto the old one. Batman says no, he wants to know specifically his role, and the World Forger tells him that he's the leader. Bruce wants to know what's become of Clark. He tells him. Clark is locked away in a prison of his own making, in a galaxy with very little sunlight, and even now he's trying to reach us. Of course, Batman wants to know if that's possible, and he tells him sure, that no other version was able to, but his Clark, his Superman, is the prime version. But if he makes it here and ruins this plan, all of them will die. Examining the World Forger's technology, Batman then realizes what he wants, that this is all a test. The suns that he's put in this universe to trap Clark give him enough energy to survive, but to depower him extremely. He's asking Batman to spin his dial, to move the suns away, to kill Superman. As this is happening, Shane, the son of the future Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl, shows up to bust the Justice League out. Discover he's more powerful than they could have ever imagined. The energy that he puts off not only busts open their cell, but every other one on Apocalypse as well. Every single person who was deemed unworthy for this perfect multiverse has now been freed, and unfortunately, most of those are the Justice League's enemies. The power inhibitor is still on, the League tries to make a break for it, they try to run away, but eventually get cornered. That is, until a ship shows up telling all of the prisoners to stand down. The Legion of Doom have showed up to save the Justice League. Not having any other choice to get to freedom or to safety, the Justice League can't question it. They just jump into a ship being piloted by Darkseid himself. Finally, we see Batman faced with the decision that his whole life has built up to. Is he willing to betray his best friend to preserve a perfect multiverse for all of them to inhabit? And he asks the World Forger if he spins the suns away quickly, if he speeds up their orbit, will it happen fast? The Forger tells him that that's correct. Bruce puts his hand on the dial and says, "I'm so sorry, Clark. There's so much I wish I could tell you right now." As the light that Clark is racing through the galaxy, trying to reach, fades away from in front of him, there's no time to say anything except goodbye. See Clark thinking back to one of his favorite days with his son that was so full in every sense of the word. They played, they laughed, they even fought bad guys together. All that excitement led them to forgetting a family tradition, lighting the Smallville Memorial Lantern. John was hurt and disappointed because he knew how important this was to his dad, but Clark assures him that it's okay. But he takes the lantern and walks outside into a torrential downpour, and these little moments are what Lois calls gray kryptonite. When Clark's fighting a huge villain or getting punched hard enough to fly through a mountain, he never thinks about dying. He never thinks about how things could go wrong, because he doesn't have time. The smallest little failures, moments like these, are where his imagination runs away. He imagines a planet in jeopardy, but because he does the right thing, because he takes the Superman way, everyone dies. But it's not an imagination, it's what's actually happening. He tries to block it out. He tries to keep moving forward alone in the darkness. Superman is doing everything he can just to try to survive, to try and make it to his friends and help the Justice League stop the World Forger. The Justice League are being rescued from Apocalypse from their prison by the Legion of Doom. But with their warden Lois Lane right on their tail, the Legion knows what they have to do. Before they send them off into space, they tell the Justice League that their friend, that Batman, is their greatest enemy. The Legion of Doom, the people that are supposed to be the bad guys in every form of the multiverse, are the ones who launch the Justice League to safety and sacrifice themselves so that they can live to fight another day. Now that the League has made it safely, they're ready to take on the World Forger. They're ready to fight to save the lives of trillions against future versions of themselves. Not only them, their old pal Batman as well. See, while all of that was happening, the World Forger revealed to Batman that he's the savior of this multiverse, and the Forger shows Batman the Sunbox, a device he built off of Element X that allowed him to judge the hearts and minds of everybody in the multiverse. Not only that, he built his final Batsuit around this chair that not only allowed him to determine people's minds, but rewrite them cell by cell and force them to change. Turns out that future Justice League never agreed to any of this, and they never would have, but Bruce made them. As Batman and the World Forger agree, it was the only way. Now we see the Justice League battling against their future selves and their very own Batman for the fate of half the multiverse. And see Clark again thinking of better times, but a night that he failed to light the lantern like him and his son did. His Pa Kent assured him that it was okay, that it's not the one light that matters. Clark telling John that same message never made him feel any better, and as he fades away in the dark void of space, he wonders why he's thinking of these memories now. He begins to see things in front of him, Batman trapping him in the darkness, Lois holding their dead son John hundreds of times over, and at the heart of it all, he sees himself. Superman, the cause of the death of everything, all because he wouldn't bend, all because he wouldn't change. Even as he's fading away with no sunlight to keep him alive, he tells himself no, he has to keep going. During this insane battle between these two Justice Leagues, the World Forger's hammer and anvil finally appear in front of him, and as he prepares to strike it, he's going to drop this multiverse on top of the old one. They're battling. Bruce is trying to convince his friends. He doesn't want to warp their minds. He wants them to see it his way. He tells them that the truth is right in front of them. He tells them to see the light now. We see Superman on the brink of death, seeing the lights in front of him, the lights of the lanterns, the lights of his friends and family. He remembers that night with John when they failed to light the lantern and how the Justice League showed up and saved the day. Bruce fights away against his friends. He's telling all of them, I'm trying to show you what is right in front of you, and he whispers to himself, please Clark see. Clark seeing those lights in front of them, he can almost feel them, so warm on his skin, almost like suns. As he's being revitalized, as his cells are recharging and his visions return to what it's supposed to be, he can see them. He can see the nuclear reaction happening at their cores, and he knows with one word who's responsible, as he says Bruce. Finally, Superman sees the path forward as he goes barreling through the first sun, all the way through its core and emerging whole. cell and his body is glowing, and after so much darkness, he only wants more as he flies through a whole chain of suns. Moving faster than he ever has, he's beyond speed, he's beyond physics. Bruce is fighting, he's screaming, "That's right, see the way forward." Clark can see them now, his friends, his family, as Bruce says to himself, "Yeah, you're welcome." Clark realizes that alone, we're a fixed point, a single line of life, a rigid shape, but together, we're the present, the past, and the future. We transcend, and together, we're more than we can ever imagine. As his hammer prepares to come down, the Forger realizes it, that he underestimated these beings. When he looks up, he sees something that he never thought he could have imagined. A single fist, a single punch big enough to take out a chunk of a planet and hurt a sixth-dimensional god. They're coughing on the ground. The World Forger says, "You don't understand what you've done. You're a fool. You're the biggest villain that this existence has ever known." And Clark says maybe, but maybe not. The World Forger wants to know how Batman fooled him. He searched his heart and his feelings. In his soul, he knew that the World Forger was right. Bruce reveals that he didn't fool him, that he believed what the World Forger said was true. Batman moved those suns knowing that Clark could die, believing that they'd probably have a better chance if he did. He also knew if Superman could push through, could get to the other side, that those suns would be there waiting for him. He gave him a chance to prove him wrong. Because Superman is his friend, and he makes him believe in things that he never could on his own. Bruce explains that that's what the League is, that's what they do for each other, and that's what they want to do for the World Forger. Bruce checked his calculations and all of his possibilities of them winning, of achieving a perfect multiverse. There was one thing that he never considered, and that's fighting with them. As Superman puts his hand down, he says there's really only one way forward. Together. As he pulls him to his feet, Clark welcomes the World Forger to the Justice League.